Well, it is that time of the year, guys, where we do see certain teams really take their foot off the gas pedal, if you will, when it comes to trying to secure a better draft position. So I'm going to go over some current teams in terms of betting that might have value in terms of like betting against these teams, because it does look like several of these teams are tanking. And then we're going to look at the overall top 10 in terms of the current draft positions. And we're also going to look at the weather situation in the NFL. We've got a major situation regarding a lot of these games being actually warmer weather, with the jet stream being pushed way up. So guys, these are the teams currently tanking, or teams that I would advise to tank for Week 17. Number one, it's the Indianapolis Colts, sticking with Nick Foles after he scored 3 points on Monday Night Football. They're at the Giants, and there's been more money that's been dumped onto the Giants. They are now -6. This is beautiful by the Indianapolis Colts. I am so high on them for their future, as long as they don't keep doing the same thing where they get these retread quarterbacks like Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, and Phillip Rivers. You can't do that. Tank, lose the rest of these games. There's no reason to win them, and then put yourself in a position to draft a Will Levis, a CJ Stroud, who I think would be really good in a dome. Maybe you trade everything to move up to get Bryce Young, but I have a feeling that Houston is going to be drafting Bryce Young number 1 overall. But yes, the Colts are tanking. Jonathan Taylor, he's probably injured, but I think it's a situation where they know even if Jonathan Taylor might be able to gut it out, there's no reason to have your franchise running back out there when you're trying to it'd be better for you to lose these games. You're not going to the playoffs, so might as well get better draft position and really give yourselves a chance to get an elite franchise level quarterback. Or you could even trade the pick and move down and get even more assets. Number 2, the Cardinals. Guys, I really don't think the Cardinals are tanking. They're starting Trace McSorley, but we saw they were really fighting on Christmas night against the Buccaneers. If I was a Cardinals fan, I would be very happy that Tom Brady came back and won, because the Cardinals are at a point, there's really no reason for them to win. They're facing a Falcons team who's starting a young quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who's currently trying to be developed and going through his learning process with a young receiver, Drake London. So guys, I don't think the Cardinals are tanking. They're trying to win these games, but if I was the Cardinals, my advisement to them, you need to start Colt McCoy, because I think Trace McSorley is actually better than Colt McCoy. And if I was the GM, you can't tell the players to lose. It is illegal, and certainly you get punishment for that. So you can't do that, but you can change the starter. I would start Colt McCoy, try and give yourself the best possible chance to lose, because listen, there's some rumors maybe Kyler Murray is back for Week 1. They've got a lame duck coach in Cliff Kingsbury. They need as high of a draft asset as possible to give themselves room to either draft a franchise-changing defensive player or even trade down and draft a superstar running back like Bijan Robinson. So we'll see what the Cardinals do. I think they should start Colt McCoy to give themselves the best chance to lose against an Atlanta team they might actually beat and upset, because the Falcons are nothing crazy with Desmond Ridder. Number 3, the Texans, starting Davis Mills versus the Jaguars. The Texans, they got the win last week. Okay, that's fun, but you've got to secure the number 1 overall draft pick. You've got to secure Bryce Young, the franchise quarterback from Alabama. You need to lose this game against the Jacksonville team, who I do. There's been murmurs Jacksonville doesn't need this game. I think Jacksonville is going to play this game hard. They need to get Trevor Lawrence more comfortable and more success. He's only a second-year quarterback, and this is really his first success in terms of NFL. I think he's going to throw 3 touchdowns, and they're going to crush the Texans. The Texans, they've been playing better. Not this week. They're going to get crushed. They're trying to secure the number 1 overall pick. The Bears, possibly without their wide receivers. I'm sure they want Justin Fields to play well. He'll be running a ton against a Denver defense who is horrifically bad against the run, against the Detroit defense, who's bad against the run. We know Detroit is amazing on offense at home. I think that's the difference. And really, Chicago with these receivers, yes, you want Justin Fields to continue to develop, but you want to keep that number 2 overall pick. Let's be honest. I mean, that's a big asset. You can trade down because you've already gotten your franchise quarterback, gather even more assets, get Justin Fields another elite receiving weapon, maybe even Jackson Smith-Njigba, who, really might fall a little bit because of injury concerns. You could also get a really elite defensive lineman if you are Chicago with that number 2 overall pick. So the Bears, they're very happy. Justin Fields is the future for sure, but he needs to stop running so much because he's going to get injured, and you need to get him weapons so he feels more comfortable throwing the ball. And then number 5, the Titans starting Malik Willis versus the Cowboys. So obviously the Titans are not tanking. They are going to be playing for the division no matter if they win or lose against the Cowboys. They might rest Derrick Henry as well just to make sure he's healthy for that important Week 18 game versus Jacksonville, winner-take-all game for the AFC South. I think they get crushed by Dallas at home. It's a big number to cover for Dallas, but there's literally no reason for the Titans to win this game. And also, Malik Willis hasn't really shown anything in terms of being a quarterback that could beat, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. He's just not playing well enough. They just lost to Houston at home and scored 14 points. So guys, those are the teams currently in tank mode. Next, we're going to quickly take a look at the actual data right here. You can see the Houston Texans sitting at 2-12-1. They've got to keep losing these games. They've got to secure the number 1 overall pick. You've got Chicago at number 2, right now at 3-12. If you're a Bears fan, listen, you would love to finish 3-14. You're rooting for Houston also. If you're a Bears fan, you're rooting for Jacksonville to rest Trevor Lawrence. Maybe Houston wins that game. Maybe you luck into the number 1 overall pick, and then you could trade that down for even more if you are Chicago. Obviously, Denver, it's a complete train wreck. It is what it is. They're not going to be trying to lose. They're just going to lose because they're bad. Arizona at number 4. I would advise Arizona, you need to start Colt McCoy. Make sure you keep that number. You could actually move up to number 3. If Denver wins one of these last 2 games, you might be able to move up to number 3 if you lose out. Indianapolis, certainly you're going to want to lose out. They have a 1 tie. Atlanta, it's a lot harder with Atlanta. I think Atlanta screwed themselves by not starting Desmond Ridder earlier in the year. We don't know what Desmond Ridder is. What's the purpose of starting Marcus Mariota? You're not even giving Drake London, your top 10 overall pick, a chance to develop because you're running the ball 70% of the time. So I don't know what Atlanta is doing, but obviously they're not trying to lose. They're trying to develop Desmond Ridder and Drake London. And then you have the LA Rams. We'll see what happens with the Rams. If you're Detroit, you're rooting against the Rams. You want the Rams to lose this week. I think they do lose to the Chargers, but I think they're going to play well because Baker Mayfield's playing better. Carolina, that whole warped situation with that terrible division. They're facing the Bucs. I think the Bucs will crush them. Obviously, they're not tanking. And then Las Vegas is another team that's, not tanking. I think Vegas might actually win in a crazy upset against San Francisco in that one. So, and then also maybe another team that should really consider losing the last 2 games, Seattle, who right now has the number 3 overall pick because they have Denver's, and they've got the number 12 overall pick. They lose a few more games, the last 2 games. Maybe they move and they end up with 2 top 10 picks. If I was a Seattle fan, I would want that because you've got a situation with Geno Smith. I don't think Geno's the future. I know his numbers have been good. I get it. But if you can get 2 top 10 picks, those are great assets to own. So just looking at all of that. Next, we're going to look at the weather. And here it is. And it's basically a complete opposite of last week. This is kind of a trend we've seen in the United States. The weather is super bipolar. It's crazy how the jet stream goes up and down. And now all of these games will be played in 50-degree weather. Last week, every game was 10 degrees. We've got a game in Nashville. It's almost going to be 60. It's going to be overcast, 10-degree winds. We've got a few domes there. Arrowhead in Kansas City, 46 degrees, very cloudy. New Foxborough, 53 degrees, very nice for this time of year. You know, the Giants game, 53 degrees. Philadelphia, 55 degrees. Tampa Bay, Florida, obviously 70 degrees. Doesn't look like there's any rain there. Commanders going to be playing in sunshine, 55-degree weather. The Ravens game, that's a, you know, they didn't update this. So the Ravens game ended up getting flexed to the 8:20 game. But it doesn't look like weather's going to affect that one. So yes, every game this week will be played. But even the Green Bay, Minnesota game, it's 35 degrees. Every game's going to be played above freezing, which is the complete opposite. So we were able to use the weather to really steal a few bets last week, like the Browns, Saints under 32. I said, listen, I know it's a small number, but you look at these teams, they're just not going to score. And it ends up hitting, and now there's really nothing we can do with this weather. It's like it's week 7 or week 8. This is like November, late October type weather right here we are seeing across the NFL. Maybe a little bit colder in Seattle, 41 degrees, but other than that, it is pretty unseasonably warm for especially the 1 o'clock games in the colder climates. So that is the current weather update, and I really can't give anyone a bet to make. I mean, if you like the over, certainly it would boost any of these games. The current weather would boost the over. I think one of the trends we normally look for is New England home games in the cold with Belichick, but it's a situation where it's 53 degrees. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So a lot of warmer temperatures here for these Week 17 games, especially these games happening on New Year's Day, so into January. January 1st, we're getting this type of weather, and we'll have to see if it changes much. I'm sure it will, getting to week number 18, and we'll see probably colder weather in week 18. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.